Squid Game Season 2 has just been released, and like in the first season of the show, there were a ton of moments that left our jaws wide open in shock at what we were watching. And I think it's safe to say that this season of the show had us doing exactly that, as it looked to rival the standout moments of Season 1. So with that, I thought I'd take a look at the 7 episodes and share what I feel the most powerful moments in the show were. So let's get into it. Here are the 5 most powerful moments in Squid Game Season 2. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Number 5. The slaughtering of the contestants in Mingle. Coming in 5th place on this list is a scene that we saw taking place in episode 6 of the show. More specifically, it was when Gi-hun peeped through the gap in the door during the first round of Mingle, and he saw the players that didn't make it into a room or find the right amount of people to team up with getting slaughtered. This was easily one of the most brutal ways to be eliminated from a game. Unlike in Red Light Green Light, where you tend to take a single shot and it ends quickly, this was one where you found out that you didn't make it, knew that you weren't going to if you were stuck outside, and then you had to watch a soldier walk over to you and then fire their weapon towards you as you saw them slaughtering everybody else that didn't make it. Because the players were still alive, they were begging for their lives and pleading to not be killed, and it was so haunting to hear because you knew that the soldiers would show no mercy towards them. This wasn't a single shot, it was multiple, and it was horrific. Seeing Gi-hun's reaction, even he was shocked at the sight that he was seeing because it was almost as if the soldiers were playing with them. This was treated like an inhumane extermination of the players, and it was definitely one of the most brutal ways that we've seen the soldiers going about their duties. That also paired with the fact that when a number would be called, we saw players ultimately turn on each other. Even people that once made out like they cared for one another. It showed people's true sides and that it was a kill or be killed environment no matter how close they'd become in there. This was a moment that definitely deserves to be on the list. Number 4. The Frontman entering the games. The moment that comes in 4th place is the end of episode 3 when we saw the reveal of the frontman, In-ho, entering the games as player number 1 and casting the deciding vote to make sure the games carried on, despite Gi-hun doing his best to get them to stop. Having the numbers descending and going from 4, 5, 6 all the way down to the infamous number 1 for the important vote. At that point, we didn't know who the player would be, but we knew from season 1 that the number 1 originally held a lot of value. I would also say that with In-ho going undercover and being in disguise, the performance genuinely made me feel like we were watching a completely different character to what we saw in season 1. We saw what felt like a genuine friendship forming between In-ho and Gi-hun, but all of it was fake, so the acting chops and the writing of the character was just incredible. We knew that Gi-hun went back into the games to locate the frontman and to kill him, so with it being revealed that In-ho was in there right under his nose and alongside him the whole time, even assisting him and progressing with his plan, and also being the player that Gi-hun got on with the most, it was a taunting thing to see, and it was something that I thought worked really well. Number 3. Russian Roulette and the recruiter's death. I actually think episode 1 of Squid Game Season 2 could be the best episode in the entirety of the season, and I am actually looking to do a full breakdown on that episode whilst explaining exactly why I feel that's the case. However, before then, one of those reasons has actually made it onto the list. The back end of the episode with Gi-hun and the recruiter playing Russian Roulette was one of the most tense moments in the entirety of the season. We saw the recruiter switch the rules of Russian Roulette, so instead of resetting the cylinder after the trigger was pulled, it would be worked through one by one, and then the trigger would keep getting pulled until somebody ended up facing the bullet that was destined to be their end. What was powerful about this was that we saw Gi-hun hunting and being obsessed throughout the entirety of the episode to find the recruiter, and now he had him right where he wanted him, across the other end of the table. However, with Gi-hun saying that he could never know what it would be like to participate in a game whilst only viewing the people as worthless, it tempted the recruiter into them both playing the game which was going to end one of them. This scene was constructed so perfectly, with the red light hitting half of their faces and symbolizing death being on the horizon. The song choice of Time to Say Goodbye being played in the background was impeccable, and us also hearing about the progression of the character the recruiter as the game went on was extremely insightful too. When he mentioned that Gi-hun only won the original games because he felt he was lucky and not special, it tempted Gi-hun to pull the trigger one final time when the odds of death were at 50-50. The look in the recruiter's face as he knew that his time was up was something that marked the end of the scene, and the individual that was so keen to pull the trigger at the start and participate in the game died without admitting or feeling like he was the lapdog that Gi-hun thought he was. He followed the rules right up until the end, and when he pulled the trigger, it was powerful. This was a moment that was extremely powerful to watch, and I didn't expect it to unfold the way that it did. From the tense conversations to the strong performances and even the song choice, this deserves to be on the list for sure. Number 2. Jung-Bae's death. The moment that made it into number 2 on this list occurred right at the end of the season, and that was Gi-hun's best friend in the games, Jung-Bae, being killed. This death occurred because In-ho, the frontman, wanted to punish Gi-hun for his decision to cause a rebellion and the death of several of the soldiers. The frontman knew that he could have killed Gi-hun and put an end to the threat of the games being taken down, but what this moment showed us was that In-ho cared more about the suffering of Gi-hun. What made this moment hit even harder was that a couple of episodes prior to the finale, we saw that Gi-hun and Jung-Bae were making arrangements to go out for a drink together when they both got outside of the games, something which sadly now will never happen. Jung-Bae was ultimately collateral damage to the desire that Gi-hun had to take down the games, and In-ho wanted to make Gi-hun feel that. Like how Gi-hun allowed several of their exes' lives to be sacrificed in order for the rebellion to start off as a success, In-ho wanted Gi-hun to realize that his best friend's life was just as valuable as the very lives that he allowed to be sacrificed. Something that brought Gi-hun and the frontman closer together in terms of their moral values, despite Gi-hun wanting them to be different. This wasn't the most emotional death that we've ever seen in the show, but this was definitely one that hit hard in this season for sure. Number 1. No-Eul being revealed to be a soldier. The moment that I think was the most powerful in the entirety of Season 2 of the show was the reveal that happened in Episode 2, where we saw that No-Eul was a soldier in the games. The show really twisted things on its head with this reveal. We spent the entirety of the second episode of the show finding out the backstory of Kang No-Eul, and seeing that she was somebody that was mourning not being with her daughter after she fled North Korea and had to leave her there. And the show deliberately made it seem like she was somebody that was suffering, struggling, and was going to enter the games as a player, as that is often the mindset and emotions that the players have. They enter because they're desperate. We even saw her call the card in front of the fire, and it felt like she was going to enter the games. However, the final thing that we saw in the episode was her going into a cargo container, and then a locker room which had the number 11 on the door, and even then, we still thought she would be a contestant, maybe player number 11. But when she closed the door and we looked through the gap, we saw the infamous pink mask that the soldiers wear, and we were instantly made to feel conflicted in how we felt about the character. We were made to feel sorry for her in the episode, but the final couple of seconds of the episode caused me to feel so uncomfortable, because this was somebody that was about to embark on a mission of killing several people. It was such a shocking moment, and it set up an even more interesting backstory to one of the most interesting characters in the show. I will say, even though these are my top 5, there are some that deserve a mention that just missed out on making it into the list. Other notable moments that were close were Thanos' death, Jung-Bae's death, the fight that occurred in the bathroom, and the O's ambushing the exes during the night. All of those moments were strong in their own right, but I just don't think they were good enough to make it into the top 5. So, there you have it, the 5 most powerful moments in Squid Game Season 2. If you want to see a full breakdown of Season 2 of Squid Game, every game being explained, character breakdowns, and even theories on Season 3, then click on the card in the top corner. The videos will be up there. What are your most powerful moments from Squid Game Season 2? Do you agree with me? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next one.